Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you to Mr. David Bray for the audio and to the National Film Board of Canada for the video of our beautiful country. We'd move on to the adoption of previous council meeting minutes, and I'd look for a motion for item 3.1. Councillor Rice.
I move adoption of the City Council meeting held October 4th, 2010.
Thank you very much. We have a motion. We'll call to the question. And, thank you. And could we have?
Mistake.
Would you?
That was a mistake.
Would you like to?
It's gonna be tough.
All right, this is going to be a tough term, isn't it?
Yeah.
Would you like us to redo that vote?
Yes, please.
Okay. We'll call for the vote. Okay, thank you. Hey! Alderman Rice, Councillor Rice, could you carry on with that second set of minutes, please?
Sure. I move that the minutes of the City Council organizational meeting held October 25th, 2010 be adopted.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. We'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that's carried. Okay, and can we have a motion to adopt the agenda? Councillor Radbourne?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I move council adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. We'll call for the vote. And that motion's carried. So we'll move on to the delegation portion of our meeting. This is an opportunity for anyone in the community to come and address council on any subject. But we do have a number of people who have put their names forward that they'd be attending. And so first I'd like to call forward Mr. Todd Russell with the Grand Prairie Firefighters Association.
Good evening, and thank you, Your Worship, councillors, and city administration for allowing us to speak to you tonight. And congratulations to all of you on your successful bids to serve this great city. I'm here to briefly introduce some of our new council to the information we presented to the Protective Services Committee and to the processes that we have been working on with council for nearly 3 years now to see the third fire station on the west side of Grand Prairie become operational. There are two important documents that have been the drivers of this expansion. The first is the Fire Master Plan study completed in 2008 that determined, regardless of the direction of regional fire service model, that the city needed a third station on the west side to keep pace with the growth of the city. We built our current stations in 2001, and since then the city then was 36,000 and has grown to 50,000 people since then. If you could please go to slide 2 for me. The second important document is the Grand Prairie, There are two important documents. The first was the master plan. The second important document is the Grand Prairie Fire Department Response Time Standard, adopted by Council in 1997. This standard stated that single-family residences built after 1977 should have a response time no greater than 5 minutes. Additionally, high-hazard industrial buildings, like the majority of buildings in the industrial park, should be reached within 4.5 minutes. That time reduced to 3.5 minutes for very high-hazard buildings, like seniors' residences and bulk fuel stations, which are both within the response area of our proposed third station. The theme of both of these documents is safety. Safety for the citizens of Grand Prairie, particularly those on the west side, and safety for our firefighters that rush in to reduce the damage and save those that are in danger. Our association shared with the Protective Services Committee data from several studies done recently on the changes that we see in residential fires with new construction and new furnishings. The two tables below conclusively show that fires are significantly more dangerous with new construction. Temperature rises much more quickly, as does the toxicity. What the study shows is National Institute of Standards and Technology burnt two houses down, one in 1975 and one in 2004. You can see the difference in the fire growth rates. In the first table, the time it took to reach 65 degrees at the ceiling is a difference of 14 minutes. In the same study, they extrapolated the tenability and escape times based on when the smoke detectors went off and when the atmosphere became lethal. And tenability is the time when the average person would still be able to have the consciousness and physical ability to leave the building. So you can see that's been reduced from 15 minutes down to 2 minutes. If we move on to our last slide, please, and I'll finish off here quickly for you guys. Building this station will not only greatly increase the safety for our citizens and firefighters, but will also reduce the damage and dollar loss due to fire. With future development plans, the third station will be well placed to deal with any construction fires, like the one in Edmonton that destroyed 148 condo units and 76 duplexes in 2007. We strongly recommend Council follow Protective Services Committee's recommendation to approve the tender for the third fire station so we can continue to keep all those in Grand Prairie safe. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Russell. We'll have an opportunity for any council members that have questions. I see Councillor Rice.
You know, your Appendix A seems to make a great deal of sense with one sort of puzzlement for me. High is government buildings. You know, I can see the rest, you know, that light manufacturing, you know, that sort of thing, rail yards, but the government buildings kind of leapt out at me. I wouldn't have thought they were a high hazard and generally built of brick or something.
Mr. Russell, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not to start with the fact that our government is very important to us, but the standard was actually developed in 1997, and we're lucky enough to have one of the people that designed the standard here, not to put you on the spot, Mr. Walker.
Mr. Walker, do you want to have a response to that?
I guess my response to that is I'm not sure how the committee came up with it. It was actually done with a group of folks from both the fire service as well as some public members. So my impression is that due to the nature of some of our government buildings being very large and spread out, that it was on the list for that reason, but I really couldn't fill any more blanks in.
Thank you very much. So are there any further questions for Mr. Russell? Councillor McLean, did I see you just ring in there?
Yes, hello Todd. What I was wondering is the 2-minute response time, so basically the new residential homes, they go up very quickly, and by the time you get there, the home is, if it started inside, a lot of times it's done. Is that what I'm reading here, like 2 minutes? So people barely get out, but you're there to respond as well for some of the areas where the homes are built so close, so it's not continuing all the way down the block.
Mr. Russell?
Your Worship, yes. It's a good question. A lot of it depends on the uncontrollable time at the beginning of a fire. A lot of it depends on when that fire is found. For instance, our most recent one in Crystal Lake, because it started in the garage, the smoke detectors didn't catch it until the garage was fully involved and the floor had already been compromised underneath the house. So in a case like that, no matter how many firefighters you have and how well trained they are, the fire's already gotten a pretty big hole before a phone call's been made. I did have a document that I showed the Protective Services Committee that kind of displayed the controlled and uncontrolled time. And the importance of that is the factors we can control are the travel time, the turnout time, which is the time it takes us to get ready, and the time it takes us to set up and get in that house and effect a rescue. And you're right, if a fire has already taken hold of a house and gotten away on us, then a lot of the other stuff becomes protective. We start to work on the neighboring houses. But the factors we can control, like I said, are those travel times and having the construction we talk about. It does compromise quickly, but if we can contain it to a room, because of drywall and everything else, drywall drastically increases the length of time that a structure will stay stable. Mm-hmm. With closed doors and a good drywall, people can stay in certain areas of the houses, and we're able to get to them.
Just one question, Mayor Given. I used to live in Countryside South, now Summerside, and they're built pretty close. Yep. And there was one fire caught one day. It was very windy. It was last year. You guys did a remarkable job. If that would have took off, it would have been more than 3 homes. It would have been a lot more. So that's, I just had to bring that up about the homes being built so close. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councilor Holt. Excuse me, I see a couple other speakers in the queue. Councilor Rice?
No, oh, yes, sorry. Todd, you mentioned there's an excellent video we should perhaps all be looking at.
Yes, Mr. Given.
Go ahead, Mr. Russell.
The video I'm referring to actually is on the Underwriters Laboratories website in of the States. It's Underwriters Laboratory University. They put together information for firefighters to help us educate ourselves on the dangers. The video in particular that I'm speaking of, it talks about lightweight and modern construction. They build several different floor assemblies, the kind that we're all familiar with now with the modern I-beam construction, and then the older kind, the old 2x10 or 2x12 fir joists that we've since replaced. They said the quickest collapse time was unprotected I-beam. They said it took about 6 minutes with direct flame impingement on those I-beams for the floor to give way. And the big difference between the new floors and the old floors is the new floors fail globally. They tend to fail completely throughout the structure, whereas the old floors, they said with the fir joists, they tend to fail locally wherever the fire was, particularly underneath it.
Next I see Councilor Wong.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Todd, I have a couple of questions for you. First of all, in terms of standard response times, is there a body that legislates it, or is it just a recommended criteria that's set up?
Mr. Russell?
Thank you, Worship. Actually, thank you very much for the question. Yeah, there is at the time when we developed this standard, when council did, it was 3 years before I was hired, but there was one international or American group, I think is where they referenced the information from. Since that time, there's an international group called the National Fire Protection Association, has representatives from over 60 organizations, labor and management, and a lot of science background people. That group has set up a response standard called 1710. I've also included a link in the sheet that I gave you guys on 1710, a simple document that outlines its response standards. This response standards set out by the city don't quite meet 1710 yet, but it's something that we could work towards in the future and hopefully implement in our city.
Thank you. Any further questions, Councilor Wong?
Okay, so is that a recommended standard, or is that a legislated standard?
It is, NFPA standards are non-binding. However, there was just an arbitration in the States, I believe it was in the San Francisco Park area, where federal government fire department took their employer to task or to court, and the judge found in their favor that 1710 was enforceable. So it's the first case of its kind, but it's a significant one.
Okay, and then also in terms of your standard operating procedures, the first fire truck to arrive on scene, they can't just go ahead and start fighting that fire. You have a minimum number of staff that have to be there before you're capable of doing that. Is that correct?
Yeah, Your Worship, thank you very much. It's that's another good question. We have a standard operating procedure, is what we call it, that says we have to have 6 on scene before we can start to effect an interior attack. However, a lot of that setup can be done by the initial crew, and our SOP does allow, it has a loophole that if we do know that there's a savable life in there, we basically, our SOP gives us 3 levels of risk. Save a lot, or risk a lot to save a lot, risk a little to save a little, and risk nothing to save nothing. If we know there's somebody in there, we can go in with less than 6. It puts our firefighters at great risk, but based on information we have, we can make that call, but 6 is what we recommend to start off a fire with. But like I said, that original group can get a lot of work done getting set up, so when the next truck shows up, everything's ready to go.
Sure. So at any one time, how many firefighters are manning a station?
Thank you, Your Worship. Currently, we have 17 per platoon, so we're allowed 3 to 4 off right now, depending on training and sick leave and everything else that a normal workplace has. So we have a minimum right now of 13 people per platoon. We do have a couple of vacancies that we're looking to fill right now as well, but yeah.
So they're on staff, like there would be 13 at each fire hall right now?
365 days a year, you bet, 24 hours a day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thanks very much. I see a number of other speakers that wanted to ask questions, so Councillor Crokin.
Thanks, Mayor Given. Mr. Russell, could you tell me, will we have any specialized equipment in our new fire hall to handle, say, any major accident or fire at the airport?
Your worship, yeah, that's another good question. The airport was mentioned in the 2008 Fire Master Plan study. It was referenced quite a bit that we should be doing this in conjunction with. However, since then, the airport has set up its own intervener status. They bought a truck and they've trained some of their employees that do other duties around the airport to respond. We still respond in a backup fashion to them. We bring, they have one person in the truck and we bring our on-duty crew. We usually send 2 pumps or 2 trucks, so a minimum of 8 plus a little more firefighting capability. But no, the plan for this third station is actually following our specialization plan. This will be a technical haul, so rope rescue, confined space, trench rescue, heavy vehicle machinery rescue. They're going to be the expert haul at that type of rescue.
Okay, thanks, just a supplementary. So you won't have any foam, like foam trucks at the west end there?
Your worship, yes, we have, actually all of our pump frontline engine apparatus have dual foam capability, both Class A and Class B. So we can put out fuel fires with our standard engines. We don't carry the same capacity foam that our old airport trucks do, but we do have the capability to get it to scene fairly quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I see Councillor O'Toole.
Yes, Mr. Given. Thank you. Todd, you mentioned fires and fire protection by having this third fire hall. What about vehicle extractions? Are we still going to be able to count on the fire department with that fire hall to still do vehicle extractions when an accident has occurred?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, we will still maintain that level of service, absolutely, and like I had mentioned to Councillor Crokin, that hall will actually be the specialty hall in heavy truck and bus extrication and machinery extrication. So when we have accidents involving semi-trucks or any bigger equipment, Greyhound buses and that kind of thing, that'll be the hall that has the people specifically trained for those types of incidents. It does give us access to that side of the city a lot quicker for those kind of car accidents, because time can be critical, getting a patient out of the car, getting them access to EMS.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I see Councillor Rice again.
That's of course assuming the county purchases those services. Now, I guess one of the things, Todd, that we've all, as councillors, received concern about is co-response. In other words, there's a fender bender and all of a sudden there's a fire truck there.
Yep.
Can you talk about the rationale of that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Your Worship. We have changed our response to those types of calls quite a lot. Even since I first started, we used to send 2 people on a small truck, basically a hopped up pickup truck, more or less, to a car accident, and then scale it up once we got there if we decided we needed more. However, we're finding that when we got to those calls, we needed more now. We didn't need more later, or 10 minutes later when a truck could get there. The next most important part is that we're not there just to help the patients. We're there to keep the scene safe for EMS responders and police. I'm sure you guys have all seen the videos of police officers getting out of their car while their car gets hit by somebody driving down the road. Well, a fire truck tends to make a lot better stop for a lot of those vehicles. Once we put a fire truck on there, if you'll notice, whenever you go to a car accident, you'll see a fire truck parked at an angle, and we call it this deflection zone. So anybody if somebody's not paying attention, and we don't want to see anybody get hit or get hurt, but if they aren't paying attention, if they don't see the accident ahead, or if they themselves could become incapacitated, they hit our truck and glance away, and they don't take out any of the ambulance personnel, any of the police officers, tow truck operators, or victims of the car accident. So we're there to keep, not only help the people in the accident, but keep the scene safe for everybody else, because we take for granted the fact that standing on a highway is a hazardous area to be.
And these are people that are at work anyway, so if a call for a fire came in, they would leave, right?
Your Worship, it's the operational decisions like that are usually left to the platoon captains right now. All of our captains are 30-year plus veterans, so have a very good understanding of risk-benefit analysis. So those decisions of crew allotments and priorities are left to those guys. I mean, as a junior officer, I'd have no way to be able to tell them where our resources should be sent. But yeah, we also have a backfill policy. So currently we respond 2 trucks, and we have a 3rd crew now because we're ready for this 3rd station that's ready to go and set up the initial attack for a fire, as well as anytime we think that the crews will be busy for more than 50 minutes, we backfill to make sure that we have somebody covering for that next call. More than 20% of our calls happen when we're already on another incident now.
Okay, thank you.
And I see one more, Councillor Wong.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Mr. Russell, I got one final question, which is, do you know from the fire master plan, whether or not it took into account the contract with the county? Because obviously some of the volume of calls is gonna decrease without the volume.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Your Worship. The Fire Master Plan in 2008 from Morrison Hirschfield specifically said that regardless of the outcome of the county contract talks, that the city didn't need a station for the west side, specifically to deal with West Point, O'Brien, and Pinnacle Lake, as they are out of our 5-minute response area now. We're only making 5 minutes there just over 70% of the time. As well as we have quite a few bulk fuel stations that are listed under Appendix A as very high hazard in that area, and the entire industrial park as well. Some new seniors residences that regardless of what the county does, we feel that the city should be providing the same level of service to all its citizens, and to do that, we need that third station there.
Right, so the issue is more response time than it is workload.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so seeing no more questions, if there's nothing else, thanks very much, Mr. Russell, for your presentation. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And of course, you'll see what council decides fairly shortly in the program.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we did have two other people who'd let us know that they would like to make a presentation today, and we'll start with Ms. Laurie Berry, manager for Muskogee Park. Laurie, do you want to join us?
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council for inviting me here this evening. I'm here to present with you a recent award that we received, and I'm just going to read some information to you. Since 1983, the Canadian Institute of Planners has recognized planning excellence through its annual awards program, which honors planning projects judged on their excellence, innovation, contribution to the body of professional knowledge, implementation potential, and presentation. In March of this year, Park Administration submitted on behalf of the City of Grand Prairie and Mesa Design Group the Muskogee Park Master Plan for consideration for the 2010 Awards for Planning Excellence. On June 8th, the Canadian Institute of Planners issued a news flash announcing its 9 winners of its 2010 awards. The 2010 awards program received 53 superb planning documents from across Canada, from which the awards jury chose the winners in each of their respective categories. The City of Grand Prairie and Mesa Design Group were honored to be the winner of the recreation planning category. I attended the conference in Montreal on October 2nd and 3rd on behalf of the city to receive this award. The award and certificate are presented to City Council tonight to acknowledge and thank the members for their support for both the funding for the master plan and for participation in the stakeholder process to create this practical and impressive vision for the urban park for the next 15 years. So I'm presenting this to you tonight for you on behalf of all of administration and thanking you for your assistance. And also I have with me a copy of the news flash with just further information of all the winners in the various categories, and so I'll present this to you as well. And I understand that David wanted to take a picture as well.
Yeah, I can imagine whenever we get an award, we like to have an opportunity to have a picture, but congratulations, Laurie, to you and
Thank you.
everybody down at Muskogee Park. Well, thank you very much, Laurie. Of course, we recognize that Muskogee Park is a jewel in our community, and it's nice to see that other people recognize it across Canada as well. Okay, and so next we had Mr. John Hendricks to make a presentation from Medican. John? Welcome.
Thanks, Mayor Given, councillors. Actually, just a comment on that. As a member of the Institute, it's great to see council and the city supporting those kinds of planning initiatives. So that was a personal comment, got nothing to do with my presentation, but it was nice to see.
Thank you.
As you know, my name is John Hendricks, and I'm part of Medican's, lean back, part of Medican's restructuring team. For those who aren't familiar with Medican, we are a general contractor and we specialize in condo development and seniors housing. This site that I'm here to discuss with you is a 7-acre site in Pinnacle Ridge. I'm assuming everyone's familiar with it. I didn't bring any presentation material. I trust you're all comfortable with the site we're talking about. Now, unfortunately, Medican found itself in a very difficult financial position over the past year. And we have been quite transparent about the process that we're engaged in, and you can certainly find more information on our website at medican.com. I can tell council that we have several projects that have been refinanced, but we will not be in a position to move forward in Grand Prairie. I had an opportunity to meet with staff today, and I believe that we do have a good solution now that's available, and this will ensure that all taxes and penalties owed can be paid reasonably quickly. Now, because of the nature of our restructuring, I must nevertheless make the request for relief from interest charges owing on the taxes owed. However, I can assure council that we are well aware of the reasons why you may not choose to oblige. Now, to conclude, staff can help us, and I expect they will, help us resolve some development permit related issues on this. And with that assistance, then I'm confident we can, as I said earlier, get these taxes and the penalties paid fairly quickly. And obviously, there's going to be some challenges with land titles in terms of timing, but that's our expectation. And then the land would get back into the hands of the original developer, and then they can work with the city on a new approach for the property. Mayor Given, that concludes my presentation. Happy to entertain any questions, but again, we're here, we're trying to be transparent. Hopefully we have been. We have to make the request we have to make to satisfy the courts and our creditors. We're doing everything we can to address their interests, but we also know you folks have interests to protect as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Hendricks. So this is about an item that's later on in our agenda. Were there any questions for Mr. Hendricks? No, seeing none, and thanks very much for coming today.
And thank you, and thanks to your staff. They've been very helpful today. Appreciated it.
Thank you. Appreciate hearing that. I'll also note that council members did receive a letter from Prudential Lands just clarifying their position on the issue as well, and that's been circulated to all members of council. And so that's all the presentations that we had scheduled for tonight. There is an opportunity for anybody from the public that wanted to address council to do that now. And I just ask again to see if there's anybody, and seeing none, then we'll move on from the delegation portion onto the public, onto the reports section. And we'd start with item 8.1, and I believe Mr. McIntyre is going to handle this. Mr. McIntyre?
Thank you, Mayor Given. This item relates to an application from Focus Corporation on behalf of the owners of a parcel of land on 92nd Street within the bounds of the Southeast Area Structure Plan. The applicants are requesting an amendment to the area structure plan. And as the area is identified on this map that is displayed here, the blue area, the pale blue area, is just to the north of the subject property, and the subject property is in, or the portion of land that's being requested for an amendment is in the beige color, so between the yellow and the red. The applicant is proposing to redesignate the subject parcel from the current higher density residential designation to, from industrial business to a higher density residential designation. And the subject lands and the development concepts are attached similar to that diagram on the overhead. The Municipal Government Act requires that City Council hold a public hearing prior to giving second reading to any bylaw that proposes to amend a statutory plan, such as an area structure plan, and advertising will be completed in accordance with the Act. The subject site, just to give you a little more detail, it's about 7.5 hectares in area. As I mentioned, and as you can see, it's on the west side of 92nd Street between Countryside North subdivision and the railway tracks on the east, or I should say on the west, and north of 68th Avenue. It's recommended that City Council give this bylaw C1060-11 first reading and establish Monday, December 13th, 2010 at 7 p.m. in council chambers as the date, time, and location for a public hearing.
Thank you very much, Mr. McIntyre. Can I please have a motion for first reading? Councillor Gustafson.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'll move the council give bylaw C 1060-11 to amend the Southeast Area Structure Plan first reading.
Thank you very much. We'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Please carry on.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'll move the council establish Monday, December 13th, 2010 at 7 p.m. in council chambers as the date, time, and location for the public hearing purpose for bylaw C 1060-11.
Thank you very much. You've all heard the motion. Any debate on date, time, and location? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that carries as well. So we're on to item number 8.2. Mr. McIntyre, this is you.
Yes, Mayor Given. This next item is relating to an application to redesignate lands from general industrial to commercial arterial. The subject property is owned by Mainline Construction Limited, and it's located within the West Industrial Area Structure Plan.
Sorry, Mr. McIntyre, just, did you jump to 8.3? And I think in our package, we have 8.2, which is the West Industrial Area.
Mayor Given, this is a two-part item. The first bylaw amendment to the West Industrial Area Structure Plan, C1063-04, is the first part.
Okay.
And there will be the next item has to do with an amendment to the land use bylaw rezoning on the same parcel.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So the amendment we're talking about here is shown as the red highlighted area. It's roughly a 4 hectare parcel, just on the corner of 94th Avenue and 116th Street. Okay, so just to the north, to get a sense of the location, would be the Future Shop and the Subway commercial mix, and across the road and sort of somewhat catty corner to the northeast would be Costco, just to give you a sense of the location. The amendments involve 3 parts. One would be this map where the subject property would be redesignated from the current industrial designation to a commercial. And the text of the area structure plan would require an amendment to Table 2, which is the land use bylaw sub-area. So that's really the breakdown of the different commercial uses, or commercial, industrial, and so on uses within that area generally. And then amendments to Section 4.2 and 4.3 also of the ASP to address details that change as a result of going from an industrial to a commercial district. The application, as I mentioned in response to your question, is going in conjunction with an application to amend the land use bylaw correspondingly. The process requires, under the Municipal Government Act, that council hold a public hearing prior to giving second reading to any bylaw that proposes to amend an area structure plan, and advertising will be completed in accordance with the Act. And it is recommended that City Council give bylaw C 1063-04 first reading and establish Monday, December 13th, 2010 at 7 p.m. in council chambers as a date, time, and location for a public hearing.
Okay, thank you very much. You've all heard the report. Any questions? No? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion then, please? Councillor Wong?
Thank you, Mayor Given. I move that council give bylaw C 1063-04 to amend the southeast area structure plan, first reading.
Thank you. We'll call for the vote. And that motion carries. Please carry on, Councillor Wong.
I also move that council establish Monday, December 13th, 2010 at 7 p.m. in council chambers as the date, time, and location for public hearing purposes for bylaw C 1063-04.
Any debate on date, time, or location? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. And so we have the second part. Mr. McIntyre, did you want to introduce this one as well? Yes.
Certainly, Mayor Given. Bylaw C 1100-171 is the amending bylaw for the subsequent portion of this application. It's subject property, again, it's at the corner of 97th Avenue and 116th Street. It's a request to rezone the subject lands from IG, which is general industrial, to CA, arterial commercial district. And again, the Municipal Government Act requires that council hold a public hearing prior to giving second reading, and it will be advertised in accordance with those requirements. And planning staff recommend that City Council give bylaw C 1100-171 first reading and establish Monday, December 13th, 2010 at 7 p.m. in council chambers as the date, time, and location for a public hearing.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. McIntyre. So I'd look for a motion on this. Councillor Toole?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'd like to make a recommendation that the council give bylaw C-1100-171 to amend the land use bylaw first reading.
Thank you very much. There is no debate on first reading, and so we'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Please carry on, Councillor Toole.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council established Monday, December 13th, 2010 at 7 p.m. in council chambers as the date, the time, and the location for this public hearing proposes for bylaw C-1100-171.
Thank you very much. Any debate on date, time, or location? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. And so we'll carry on. Mr. McIntyre, I believe you have the next one as well.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Last item from me this evening. This is a status report on annexation and a request for direction. In a nutshell, as council knows, the city and county adopted a new intermunicipal development plan in June of this year. Among the terms of the new intermunicipal development plan, or IDP, are provisions for short-term and long-term annexation areas. I don't have a map to put up on the screen, but you do have a map attached to your report, and the area identified as a short-term annexation area and the subject of this report is the yellow area on the map. And the IDP indicates that the city and county are in agreement that the city will initiate an amendment, or an annexation application, I should say, to annex the subject area in the short-term annexation yellow area within 2 years of adoption of the plan. The first step in making an application to the Municipal Government Board begins with a letter of notification that we intend to prepare and submit an application. It sounds rather officious, I know, within the next few months. And in sending that letter to the Municipal Government Board, we copy it to the County of Grand Prairie, the school boards, the provincial agencies that we deal with, Transportation, Alberta Environment, and so on, as well as the service providers, Aquaterra and such. We need council's confirmation that we can proceed to take that step. I can answer any more detailed questions about the actual process and any of the other implications if you have any.
Sure, thanks very much. Are there any questions for Mr. McIntyre? I do see some. Councillor Rice, you're first in the queue.
No, I didn't have any questions. I was gonna make the motion.
Okay, we'll go to the next council that has a question. Councillor Crokin?
Thanks, Mayor Gibbon. Any of the areas that I see that we're kind of like donutted around it, that, how would I put it, the acreages that are a subdivision, what if they got together and wanted to be annexed also? I mean, it's not in this plan. Would that be acceptable to the county?
Mr. McIntyre, do you want to speak about land areas? Is there going to be a general call for landowners that may wish to come in as part of an annexation?
Our intention, Mayor Given, is based on our agreement with the county in the IDP, is that number one, we will start with the areas that are specifically identified for annexation according to the IDP, but it's generally understood that if there are other landowners in the county that are adjacent to or in proximity to the area that's intended for annexation in the short term, that they'd be welcome to be considered for annexation, and the county will, I guess, decide based on the specifics of it whether to support it or not.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? No, seeing none, then can I have a motion on this, please? Councillor Rice?
I move that council direct administration to
Sorry, Councillor Rice, your microphone off there.
Sorry. I move that council direct administration to commence the process for annexation of lands from the County of Grand Prairie Number 1 in keeping with the intentions of the intermunicipal development plan. Speaking to it, as we've heard, that during the many-year negotiation, we established a process for landowner consultation, public information, communications with the county, assembly of background reports, and supporting documents. So I believe, having covered all those bases, I think there were 3 or 4 open houses, both in the city and the county. So I believe it is now time to move forward.
Thank you very much for that motion. And just to be clear, this really is the start of a communication process with the landowners that will be affected, and administration will be working through that process with them, I'm sure, night and day over the next couple of years. So thanks very much for the motion. Councillor Rice, any discussion or debate on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. And that motion carries. Thank you very much. And so now we're on to committee business and item 9.1, Subdivision and Development Appeal Board. Could I ask Councillor Radburn to handle that one for us? Councillor Radburn, could you just, there you go, please.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I move that council receive the minutes of the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board hearings held September 22nd and 30th, 2010.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate on those motions that were contained in our package? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that vote passes. Anything to highlight for Councillor Radburn?
No.
Okay, thank you. So we move on to item 9.2, Combative Sports Commission, and Councillor Wong, could you handle that one, please?
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I move that council receive the minutes of the Combative Sports Commission meeting held October 1st, 29th, and November 8th, 2010.
Thank you very much. You've all heard the motion. Any discussion or questions about the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Anything you wanted to highlight from those meetings, Councillor Wong?
Yes, I'd like to highlight a couple of points. We met 3 times to deliberate on a couple of applications that came to the commission. The first one we approved, Savvy Productions, for an event on February 12th, 2011 at the Canada Games Arena, providing they can produce a contract signed with the Crystal Centre by November 26th, and that they can supply a commissioned doctor for that event, as we don't have one set up yet. We also approved an event for Evolution Fighting Championships, but asked them to choose a date that was greater than 90 days after the first event, so that we could create enough of a gap between events to not oversaturate the market and to not overwork our commission.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for Councillor Wong? Seeing none, then we move on to Pursuit of Excellence, and I believe that's going to be Councillor Radburn again.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Yeah, I'm pleased to report on Pursuit of Excellence Committee. This was the last committee, as it's turned out. that I chaired in terms of the Pursuit of Excellence Committee. Look forward to the good work of the new committee for this new term. So at our September 30th meeting, first of all, I'd like to move the council receive the minutes of the Pursuit of Excellence Committee meeting held September 30th, 2010.
Okay, thank you. You've all heard the motion. We'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Councillor Radburn, do you have anything to highlight?
Thank you. Yeah, I'll provide some highlights. We did approve 3 young volleyball players. I believe are on the provincial U17 ladies volleyball team for $1,000 each, so they can pursue their training and participation on that team. We also provided $1,000 to the Grand Prairie Sharnairu Karate Club for a clinic, and the Wolves Peace Country Volleyball Association, $1,000, and Alberta Sport and Development Center Northwest, $500 for a coaching clinic they hosted as well. So those were the monies that were approved. One other note, we did receive for information, actually, I believe, a letter that the city sent to the County of Grand Prairie inviting them to submit a nomination of a councillor or member of public for appointment to the Pursuit of Excellence Committee. This was something that we changed when we revised the terms of reference to involve the county or a member from the county, and we're waiting for a response from that letter. But it's just kind of an outgrowth of we reviewed the criteria last 3 terms, and we revised the terms of reference. So I think we're in good stead as we move forward with the Pursuit of Excellence Committee for this term. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. And so moving on to Public Works Committee, I believe that was Councillor Wong.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Given. I move that council receive the minutes of the Public Works Committee meeting held November 2nd, 2009.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. We'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Please carry on, Councillor Wong.
Yes, I also move that council, number 1, direct administration prepare an application for first round green trip funding for the purchase of transit vehicles for service expansion and bus stop infrastructure. And number 2, send a letter to the province stating that the city will be submitting an application for second round green trip funding for development of a downtown transit terminal and 2 satellite terminals to be located at the Grand Prairie Regional College and the Prairie Mall, and further receive the green trip funding application process report for information. And in speaking to this, Mayor Given, this funding will help kickstart the changes in the transit service identified in the Transit Master Plan. The first round of funding is, we'll be looking for approximately $2.8 million to upgrade the fleet. 1/3 of the funding will come from our city, and that was identified as money in the transit reserve. In round 2, we're going to be looking for approximately $4 million. We don't have our 1/3 of the funding yet, but that could be discussed in the 2012 to 2014 budget session. But the great thing about this grant application is that we only have to provide 1/3 of the money, and the province is going to kick in 2/3.
Thanks very much, Councillor Wong. Any questions? Any questions? Just ring in Councillor Rice if you want to ask a question, so we can make sure that we get it on the mic. Thank you, Councillor Rice.
Isn't it 1/3 municipal, 1/3 federal, 1/3 provincial?
Councillor Wong?
I would need help from someone to answer that question. I thought it was 1/3, 2/3.
I see the Director of Public Works may have an answer for us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Given. In the report, it was indicated it was a province initiative to get people out of vehicles and into public transit. So the province, in this case, is providing 2/3 of the funding.
Yeah, I believe this
And the
is
municipality 1/3.
a strictly provincial initiative that the Premier announced a couple of years ago.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Please carry on, Councillor Wong.
Yes, I move the council direct administration send a letter to the Minister of Transportation in support of the request from the Grand Prairie Regional Airport to install traffic lights at the airport intersection and reduce the speed limit from 90 kilometers per hour to 70 kilometers per hour, and further request administration provide information regarding traffic volumes at the airport intersection and report back to a future committee meeting. And in speaking to this, Mayor Given, this is a provincial highway, that intersection just outside our airport, so we do have to typically apply to the province to ask for speed limit reductions, but this is a letter that was written by the Grand Prairie Airport making a request, and the city of Grand Prairie here is just supporting that viewpoint.
Sure. Councillor Wong, just one thing, typically when we send letters to the minister, it usually comes from the mayor's office, and so I just wonder if you would be willing to amend your motion to reflect that rather than direct administration?
Yes, I will make that a friendly amendment. Council, direct the mayor send a letter to the Minister of Transportation.
Thanks very much. Any questions on the motion?
Yeah.
Councillor Rice?
We have requested this in the past, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe this is something that has been requested a number of times.
So we just keep pecking away at them and hope sooner or later they'll give in.
I think that's the intent, yeah.
Thank you.
And I see another question, Councillor Radburn?
I have a comment, if that's okay?
Please.
So for discussion, certainly I will support this motion. I think Councillor Rice has shared the history of the first part of the motion. The second part of the motion, I was just recently made aware of at our first Airport Commission meeting. Apparently, administration at the airport have for a long time tried to get the information contemplated in the last part of the motion. There's a threshold when the volume of traffic dictates that this can happen or not, and they've never been able to find out really how close we are. And so if we can help garner that information for ourselves and the Airport Commission, that would be extremely useful.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. And you should note as well for council members that our administration does have some information on traffic counts. And I think the intent is to find out what the province thinks we need to get over,
Threshold.
Good.
Exactly,
Thanks very
yes.
much. So seeing no further questions, we'll call for the vote on this item. Thank you, and that motion carries. And Councillor Wong, was there anything else that you wanted to cover from the meeting?
That's everything. I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Did anyone have any questions on the meeting for Councillor Wong? Seeing none, we'll move on to 9.5, General Government Services Committee meeting, and I believe that's Councillor Rice.
I move that council receive the minutes of the General Government Services Committee meeting held November 3rd, 2010.
Thank you very much. You've all heard the motion. Anything's, if everybody believes those minutes are in order, we'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that motion carries. Please carry on, Councillor Rice.
I move first reading of bylaw C-1251. This is the temporary borrowing bylaw, and I will speak to it at second reading.
Okay, thanks very much. So we have a motion for first reading. We'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. Please carry on.
I move second reading of bylaw C-1251, the temporary borrowing bylaw. This bylaw is simply a provisional measure. Our bills obviously come in 12 months of the year, and we don't collect the bulk of our money till June or July. So in case we should run short of cash, January to July, it allows administration to tap into basically what is a line of credit. I think it's maybe been used once in the last 15 years or something. It's not something that happens very commonly, but it does provide people like Mr. Anderson with the ability to sleep at night.
Well, if that's what we're passing tonight, then boy. Yeah. Okay, so we have motion for second reading then. So there is debate or discussion or questions allowed on second reading, or any of those? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that vote carries. And
Yeah,
Councillor
I
Rice?
move that we have third reading of bylaw C-1251. And in speaking to it, because this is a money bylaw, in order to have 3 readings in one evening will require unanimous approval.
Okay, thank you very much. So I don't believe there's.
Yeah, don't make any
Yeah,
stupid.
I think there is the ability to have debate or discussion on the merits of having third reading, and so I'd look if there's any discussion. Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. thank you, and that motion carries, so Councillor Rice, you can. please
I
carry on
move
with
third reading of bylaw 1251, the temporary borrowing bylaw.
Good, thanks very much. So for motion for third reading, and we'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that motion carries.
I move that council appoint Mayor Bill Given as its proxy at all meetings of the shareholders of Aquaterra Utilities, Inc. This is generally the AGM, there's usually not any other ones. And traditionally, the mayor has been our proxy vote at those meetings.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion or debate on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. And that motion carries. Please carry on, Councillor Rice.
I move that council approve the strategic priorities chart, a copy of which is included in your package. I believe you've all reviewed it before. I'd answer any questions about it.
Any questions for Councillor Rice on the strategic priorities chart? I'm sure she'd really like to answer. Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion does carry. Please carry on, Councillor Rice.
I move the first reading of bylaw C 1138D to amend the tax discount and penalty bylaw. And this is the bylaw that amends and actually reduces the penalty percentage. And I know that Mr. Anderson would be ever so happy to speak to it if you would like.
Sure, Mr. Anderson, do you just want to give us an overview of exactly what the bylaw is?
Sure, Mayor. Given what it is, it relates to people who pay their property taxes in January, February, and March. And there's actually, it's an incentive to do so, and it recognizes the time value of money. So it provides them with a lesser property tax bill just because they're prepaying it.
Okay, thank you very much. So the news for the community is pay ahead of time and save a little bit of money. Okay, thank you. Any questions on first reading? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that motion carries. So please carry on, Councillor Rice.
I move second reading of bylaw C 1138D to amend the tax discount and penalty bylaw. And in speaking to it, what this does is it pulls us more into line, reflecting the current interest rates of the country, actually.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or discussion, debate? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that motion carries. And
okay, I move that we have a third reading of bylaw C 1138D to amend the tax discount and penalty bylaw.
okay, so a motion to have third reading, as with the previous motion like this, the motion must be unanimous to carry. So we'll call for the vote. And that motion is unanimous and does carry. Councillor Rice.
I move third reading of bylaw C 1138D to amend the tax discount and penalty bylaw.
Okay, thank you very much. Third reading, last opportunity for questions or debate. Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion does carry. Councillor Rice, you're not off the hook yet.
I
A couple
know.
more.
I move that council deny the request to cancel the 2009 and 2010 tax penalties of $14,503.16 on Lot 47, Block 13, Plan 0728150. It is the city's position that we do not cancel penalties unless our staff has made an error, and the committee has determined in this case such was not an issue.
Okay, thank you very much. You've all heard the motion. Any questions on the motion or discussion, debate? Councillor Wong?
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I would definitely support this motion. I guess that there's no way that council could really, they couldn't approve this request without setting a precedence and open the door to all sorts of forgiveness requests. And You know, so I would urge all of council to support this motion.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other discussion or debate? Seeing none, then we'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that motion carries.
One
Councillor
more,
Rice.
okay. Boy, what a hard-working committee. I move that council rescind the motion of September 7th, 2010 to approve the offer to purchase the single-family dwelling located at Lot 195, Block 17, Plan 792-1105, located at 9405 82nd Avenue, with the total amount of $155,000 less advertising, legal fees, and a 3% realtor commission to be added to the housing reserve, and further direct administration to obtain a formal appraisal and further approve an MLS listing through the Grand Prairie Real Estate Board to market that property located at 9405 82nd Avenue for the amount of the appraised value, with the sales proceeds less advertising costs, legal fees, and 3% commission to be added to the housing reserve. This was a property from part of our housing stock that we had purchased from the province, one of the CMHC houses. We cannot sell those houses for less than their appraised value. We did have an offer on it. Unfortunately, that offer did not progress to fruition, and so it is the committee's recommendation that we have a formal appraisal done and put it back on the market. The property needs an extensive amount of work, which is like saying the Titanic got slightly damp. But so that is our motion.
Okay, thank you very much. You've all heard the motion. Any discussion or debate, questions? Seeing none, then we'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that motion carries, and thank you very much, Councillor Rice. There can't possibly
There
be
can't
anything
possibly
else.
be any question.
No, okay. Were there any questions for Councillor Rice on the GGS committee meeting? No. Seeing none, then we'll move on to the Environment Committee, and Councillor Munro.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I would move that council receive the minutes of the Environment Committee meeting held November 8th, 2010.
Thank you very much. You've heard the motion. We'll call for the vote.
I should vote against.
Thank you very much. And despite Alderman Rice's intentions, that motion carries. Please carry on, Councillor Munro.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'll make a motion that council support Aquaterra Utilities application to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Municipal Fund for grant funding for upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant. Should I give a little bit of back?
Sure, please.
A little bit of background on this is that the current wastewater treatment plant will not meet standards set out by the provincial government come 2013, June 2013. Aquaterra has applied for grant funding through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Municipal Fund to assist with the upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant. In order for it to be eligible for funding, Aquaterra is required to provide supporting documentation establishing that the municipal government has a genuine interest and active involvement in the project. This project will be completed over a 3-year period at an estimated cost of $45 million. The upgrades will also result in an additional capacity to support growth until 2030.
Great, thanks very much, Councilor Munro. The only other thing that I'd note in addition to that is this is one of Council's top lobbying priorities in our strategic priorities chart that we just approved earlier tonight. So if there's any question or discussion or debate, just put in your request to speak there, and I see Councilor O'Toole first in the queue.
I understand that thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand that our Aquaterra's facility is not weak in any means. It's just that the government has raised the standards. Is that correct?
Councilor Munro, can you speak to that?
Thank you, Mayor Given. As I understand, that is correct. The provincial standards will be changing June 2013, at which point we will have to adhere to those standards.
So we can still drink the water now.
Definitely.
Thanks very much. I see Councillor McLean next.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Councilman Monroe, the question I was wondering when this got passed in the Environment Committee is, we're going to the Federation and for their rules and applications, but we don't know how much this grant's going to be. So do we know anything from further incidents the last 10, 20 years, how much it is? And it puts us in a different classification. It might cost us more in the end. So that's the question I have for this kind of issue of trying to get more funding. I think it's a responsible question.
Sure, Councillor Monroe.
Thank you, Mayor Given. As I understand it, the grant application is going to be, we're going to be requesting the maximum, which as I understand is $1 million at this point.
Okay, thanks very much. Any further questions, Councillor McLean?
Not right now.
No? Okay, I see Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to add to Justin's preamble, actually this grant would support expansion of our capacity to 2030. So some of it's to do with standards that have changed, and some of it is to increase our capacity so that we have that capacity out there for a good long time. Good. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Any further questions? Seeing none, then I'll call a question and ask for the vote. Thank you. And that motion does carry. And your final one, Councillor Monroe?
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'll move that council approve the litter reduction plan. The administration has been very busy in the last couple of months putting together a litter reduction plan. Over the next 12 months, there will be approximately 50 bins will be placed at transit stops. Some of you may have noticed that some of the transit stops have already been paved and bins are in place. Placement of the bins includes a cement pad at the transit spots to secure the bin. This is a cost shared project with the contractor and transit. Sorry, I lost my place here. Sorry about that, folks. There's also there's a number of other issues relating to this reduction plan. There's going to be some events such as big bin events where we would have basically the larger, as I understand it, 4 or 6 yard bins placed at alternating locations from April until October 31st, with hopes that we can get people to participate in litter reduction. It should be noted that last year, or pardon me, I guess earlier this year, 16 tons of waste were removed from the dunes area. A large portion of that was oil field waste materials. Hopefully, we're not going to be subject to some of that, but regardless, there are once again a number of other initiatives in this plan, such as making sure that we're securing the loads of your vehicles, and it instead of possibly issuing out fines, it could be a voucher for a tarp instead, or else perhaps purchasing a tarp instead of receiving a fine. We'd also like to and once again, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of glossing over some of these. We'd like to bring forward a motion to the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association to increase the littering fine. Currently, the fine is set at $250, and as I understand it, the City of Grand Prairie is not allowed to go above that amount. So if we could have the province increase it to, say, a number such as $1,000, that would allow us to bring up our fine capabilities. And of course, we'd like to continue with the city scrub and active participation there, and encouragement for the Rotary clubs to continue with their Green-a-thon. Once again, I'm sorry, I kind of glossed over a few issues. I would certainly entertain any questions.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Monroe. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, then we'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that motion carries. And was there anything else from the Environment Committee that you wanted to highlight, Councillor Monroe?
Thank you, Mayor Given. Not at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the Protective Services Committee meeting. Oh, so there were questions for Councillor Monroe? Okay, sure. Councillor Rice?
I'm somewhat puzzled as it relates to agenda item number 2, which has to do with bylaw C-1139, the Aquaterra Utility bylaw to implement a single-stream curbside blue bag recycling program. Certainly the incumbents will know we've received 840 inputs over the last 3 years saying your residents want this. Why I'm puzzled as to why first reading was defeated. First reading simply tables it as a public document. If the committee would have allowed first reading to proceed and it comes back to the next council meeting for second reading, we would then receive input. I'm just not entirely, I'm quite puzzled as to why you would defeat first reading, particularly when the amendment was carried 3-1. So I don't know, and I would ask the Intergovernmental Services Director through his worship if it would be appropriate to remake bylaw first reading.
So we have a question about, Councillor Rice, you're asking then to basically bring that onto the table.
Bring it onto the table. It simply makes it a public document where then people can come forth to the next council meeting for second and third reading.
Okay, so I would look for some information on that.
Mr. Mayor, the bylaw can't be introduced this evening for first reading. A bylaw has to have the actual text and the bylaw in front of council on the table prior to first reading. The Environment Committee has asked for administration, however, to bring back a report on this bylaw, and that will be occurring very shortly. And administration will also be addressing procedural and contractual implications at that time.
Thank you. So Councillor Rice, we heard that it's not in order to put the motion on tonight, but that the committee will be receiving additional information relatively quickly.
When does the committee meet again? I guess we've made some commitment certainly to the residents prior to the last election that this would be happening January 1.
Well, I believe the actual motion was March 1st.
March, okay, sorry.
But having said that, maybe Jeanette, you can fill us in on what administration's working towards in terms of bringing this forward.
The next meeting of the Environment Committee is December 6th. However, because of some of the urgency and the implications, we are looking to schedule a special Environment Committee meeting as early as this Friday afternoon to be able to address that specific issue of the curbside recycling program.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So any further questions then for Councillor Monroe on the Environment Committee meeting? No, seeing none, we'd move on to Protective Services and Councillor Radbourne.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I move council receive the minutes of the Protective Services Committee meeting held November 9th, 2010.
Thank you very much. We have a motion on the minutes. We'll call for the vote. Thank you. And that motion does carry. Please carry on, Councillor Radbourne.
Thank you again, Mayor Given. I move council award tender 52-323-10 new fire station in the amount of $6,347,000 excluding GST to Clark Builders as the lowest bid meeting specifications. If I could speak to the motion, please, Mayor Given. I have about 6 points I'll try to share as succinctly as possible. First of all, this has been quite a process, and much information has been shared, both from the Firefighters Association and from Chief Lemieux over time. I would urge council to support this motion I have outlined six reasons. First of all, this is an expenditure, but it's also is an investment in this service to help meet the city's response and travel time policy guidelines, and thus maintain service levels that are appropriate for a valued service in Grand Prairie. Our customer satisfaction, quality of life survey showed that our fire service was the #1 valued service, and they are very pleased with how we're delivering on that service. This would maintain the quality of that service. Also, it provides an equity of service, a greater equity of service across the city. There should not be 3 distinct subdivisions who are completely, it's almost unreachable to meet the guidelines from that southwest corner of town. 3, this is no doubt an investment in the protection of persons and property and fire safety. 4, this is an investment in a service level to support economic development in future annexation areas. I think this will be a reason for industry and business to be a part of the city of Grand Prairie because of the service that they are going to be provided. My last 2 are more pragmatic and practical. First of all, there are obviously ethical and legal reasons to pursue this. Ethical in terms of how we do business and what understandings have been committed, and ethical in terms of doing business and how you should do business and how you should treat bidders who have put in work to the process. And finally, the price is right. It is almost $1 million less than budget. There were 9 competitive bids. We were pleased with the numbers when they came in. Delaying could cause us to have to pay more for this very needed facility.
Okay.
With that, I'll reserve the right to close debate, Mayor
Okay.
Given.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radbourne. I do see some people in the queue, and we'll go first to Councillor Wong.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I agree with all the comments that Councillor Radbourne has given for building this 3rd fire hall. However, I do believe that this decision needs to be tabled. So I'd like to make a motion to table this decision until the November 29th council meeting. The reason I'd like to see that done is not because I want to belabor this process at all, but I don't think it's appropriate for us to pass this motion today because we're going into budget discussions on Thursday, and this decision could have an impact on our 2011 budget and potential tax levels. Also, I believe that that there have been decisions that we've made in the past that led us up to this point, and there are council members that feel that we can't back out on those decisions now. Those kind of discussions need to take place at the budget discussion because it does have an impact on our budget. Further to that, I believe that in order for every council member to have the proper information, they need to have a copy of the fire master plan, which I know is almost impossible to get a hold of. You can't get a hold of it online. So I would, on top of this, direct administration to please forward an electronic copy of the fire master plan to all members of council to review before we discuss it.
Okay, so first we're going to just talk about the tabling motion. That motion is in order and I believe is a debatable motion. And I believe it's actually open to debate across the board, not just the date and time, is it?
Your Worship, the motion is to postpone consideration of the motion that's on the floor until November 29th. Was that the date? Yes. And that motion is debatable as to the merits of the postponement. And it is amendable only as to the time specified.
Okay, thank you. So we can debate the motion in its full, not just about date and time, but about the actual merit of postponing debate. Okay, so now the discussion and the debate that we're going to have is on this postponement. And so I see Councillor McLean first.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'm looking forward to this being tabled and the motion being brought forward. There's a lot of questions I have and about increase of taxes, and we're 120 million in debt, and how much more we go. So I look forward to this motion being tabled and going to November 29th.
Okay, thanks very much. I see next in line, Councillor Rice.
I'm speaking, I'm sorry, speaking in opposition to the request or to the motion. I believe that it is very important as we go into the budget session that this motion proceeds this evening. I was somewhat surprised to hear Alderman Radburn say that it was $1 million under. In fact, I believe it is about $2.3 million under what we have in our budget. So I believe as we go into the budget sessions, we need to know that we have that extra money freed up. And so I think it is imperative that we proceed this evening.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Rice. I see Councillor Gustafson.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Can somebody tell me the deadline on when we have to announce the tender, when we have to approve the tender by?
Okay, thank you very much. That's a specific question. Does anybody have information on when the tender process needs to be approved by? Looking to administration. I will direct that to the Protective Services Director.
November 29th is what I've been told.
So the same date, it has to be ratified by council by the same date that
That's
the motion
correct.
proposes. Okay, thank you. Councillor Gustafson, does that answer your question? Anything further?
Well, it is the same date. Like, do we have to have it announced by like 5 o'clock on business hours or something, or can we wait till after council?
Is there
Or
any
do we care?
information on purchasing? I would look to the treasurer, city treasurer, Mr. Anderson.
Well, Mayor, given we could have a discussion with the contractor and see if they're willing to extend it. The marketplace is kind of tight for construction now, so they may be quite willing to hold it for a further period of time.
Okay, so Councillor Gustafson, I think that's the answer.
Yeah, thank you.
Questions? Councillor Monroe?
Thanks, Mayor Given. I would also speak in support of Councillor Wong's motion. As being one of the new members at council, I would welcome any more information to educate myself on the issue and feel that it would be important to have that. So I would welcome it. Thank you.
Okay, I see Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'll be speaking against the tabling motion. A wealth of information has been presented over time. New councillors as well as old had the opportunity to come to Protective Services and hear a full report on the background on this issue. Had that opportunity. And finally, this is in the budget. This is in the budget. So the budget information you have includes this item. That's the starting point. That's part of it. That's part of the budget. We have some tough decisions to make in budget, but it's in the budget now. It's not going to be add-on. It is part of the budget that we have to look at and make some tough decisions. But it's there. Plus, we need to move forward. I believe we need to. We're delaying a decision that I don't know what more information council needs to finally make a decision. I think we have that information. We have to make the decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Radburn. Councillor Crokin?
I also will be speaking against the postponement. This, as Alderman, or Councillor, sorry, Radburn has very well articulated that it has been discussed. We had the opportunity to go to Protective Services, but the one question I'd really like to ask Director of Corporate Services, when would we start paying back the debenture? Is it so-called a debenture or when we'll be borrowing the $6 million?
Okay, so a question for Mr. Anderson, Ken?
Mayor, given we would not borrow it all at once, we would borrow it as required to meet the progress payments, and payments are due 6 months thereafter. That's when the installments begin.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mayor Given.
Okay, I see now Councillor Wong, there are...
I'll close, thank you.
Okay, so, okay, and I see Councillor Rice.
I guess I'm having some difficulty. spent, what, 3 years at least, talking about this, assimilating information, reviewing information. In order to get to this point, I guess I'm feeling somewhat baffled, as Alderman Radburn said. Like, I don't know what more information that you couldn't have already accessed that there is. We can't keep delaying these kind of decisions. There has to be some sort of level of, I assume the people that have gone before me have did their homework with due diligence. And I'm not sure when we talk about money that the new councillors are aware of the Municipal Sustainability Initiative. It was an initiative that was negotiated strongly through AUMA, which $135 million over the next 10 years will come to the city of Grand Prairie to ensure that projects such as these keep us on the forefront of progress and technology. So I really cannot imagine why we would need to delay this decision that it seems to me we've delayed already for up to 3 years, and it's time to move forward. And if we are going to be paralyzed into inactivity on every decision because we might not have enough information, we will not grow and prosper as a city.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rice. I see Councillor O'Toole.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This debate has been going on, like you said, for 3 years. It was a contentious election issue, so the information is out there, and I'm going to be voting against the tabling the motion tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion or debate? No? Okay, seeing... Okay, so Councillor Wong, thank you. To close?
Okay, thank you, Mayor Given. I brought this up because, not because I feel that we don't need a third fire hall. I brought this up because of process and timing. This is a large issue that happened to fall a few days before our budget discussions. And at those budget discussions, that's where we make big decisions based on the context of the entire budget and what service levels the city wants and what we feel that our taxpayers are willing to put up with. Certainly, if this motion was defeated, I would vote in favor of building this fire hall because I believe it is something that we need. But at the same time, if we don't discuss this in the context of the budget, I think it's irresponsible of us.
Okay, thank you. And so that was to close debate, and so we'll call for the vote on the motion to table to November 29th. We'll start the vote. Okay, thank you very much. And that motion is defeated. So we'll move back on to the main motion, which I believe Councillor Radburn had made. And we'll open it up for debate or discussion on the main motion of awarding the tender. Is there any debate on that main motion? I see one in the queue, Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. There's been a lot of debate on the fire hall, but I'm also looking at when I first ran in 2004, we were 30 million in debt, and now we're 120. Now we're going to be 130 million. 10 million right away, besides the 6 million. We got to fill the fire hall up. We got to be very careful. I'll be voting most likely going forward with fire hall, but we're in debt as a city, and we got to start cleaning it up a little bit. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further discussion or debate? I see Councillor Rice.
I believe that we have a very strong, very responsible debt repayment program, which I'm sure that Mr. Anderson would be happy to review with you. It's not like we borrow money and think, oh, geez, we're going to have to pay this back sooner or later. We don't borrow money until we do a very detailed assessment of when and how we're going to pay it back. Now, the reason that we It may appear to be losing ground is because the province made a commitment that our share of the MSI was going to be 135 million over 10 years. What they've done is said, you know what, we might have to just stretch that out a bit, and they haven't come through with, they still say you will get your full amount, it just might take us longer. So we still have that money, but it certainly, I don't believe that anyone goes out and borrows money irresponsibly without figuring out how to repay it.
Okay, thank you. I see Councilor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. To Councillor Rice. It's not being irresponsible, but our taxes in the last 10 years have been 9, 8, 7%, administration recently 7.6%. So how we go about paying some of this is a big important issue to taxpayers, and I look forward to further debate, and I think it's a proper issue to bring forward.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion or debate on the main motion? Seeing no one else in the queue, we'll call for the vote. Okay, and all the votes are entered, and that motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. And we had one more motion from Protective Services, Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I move council award tender T 54-322-10 in the amount of $195,603.20 per year for operation of photo radar, red light cameras, and downtown parking enforcement to the Commissioners of Edmonton, Alberta as the lowest bid meeting specifications. In speaking to this motion, Mayor Given, basically it does in the motion tell you what the Commissioners do for us. It is, I think, four or five staff that who do this work on our behalf. This amount is less than the previous contract and less than budget by about $30,000. It is a one-year contract with the potential of 2 one-year extensions. So this is for 2011, and the city can decide to renew for that same amount for 2012 and 2013.
Good, thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Any questions for Councillor Radburn? I see Councillor Rice in the queue.
It's not a question particularly on the motion, but who are commissionaires? Like, how do you become a commissionaire?
Councillor Radburn, can you speak to that?
Oh, I think we'll let Mr. Walker.
Protective Services Director, Mr. Walker?
Your Worship, basically, I believe they're ex-military folks or have been in a service of that kind.
Okay.
And they are hired by the commissioners, so they actually vet them, provide them whatever benefits.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. I see Councillor McLean in the queue. Councillor McLean, you just,
Sorry about that. The only question I have is red light. We increased tickets and getting money, and it helped bring down the accidents on our intersection, which is almost in half, I do believe. How much return are we getting in and paying the commissioners, which they do a great job, and where's all that money going? We're going to have some pedways so kids don't get hit crossing the road. It's traffic acts, so we can put money to good use. Just simple questions.
So what's the question is about how much money comes from?
From the intersection lights to where we're paying 195. What's the total they're getting from doubling or tripling what they've since they brought it in a couple years ago?
If we have some information on fine revenue from the photo radar, or red light cameras, excuse me, Director of Protective Services?
They don't just
sorry, I don't have the red light camera information, but the folks, just so there's no kind of misinformation here, these folks actually don't deal with the red light cameras at intersections. They run the photo radar across the city. So they basically are in vehicles and using the photo radar that isn't at the intersections. The intersection process is actually run through the administrative staff at Enforcement Services. So, and I don't, sorry, have the information on the amount we get in there. I can certainly provide that to you, though.
Okay, thanks very much. I see Councillor Crokin with a question.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Have we ever done this in-house?
To maybe the Director of Protective Services?
Actually, no, we have not. Certainly not in the 15 years that I've been involved. We've actually always had a contract with the commissioners. The previous contracts we've actually have just been renewed without going to the market. On the advice of our purchasing agent, we actually went to the market this time just to confirm that there wasn't any other bidders out there that wished to compete, and there haven't been. So we don't believe we could do it this reasonably, quite frankly, in-house.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mayor Given.
Okay, and I see Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Well, where I'm heading towards this is, I know it's photo radar commissioners in the cars because I got a family member that does that, not here, but how much do we collect? How much do we keep? 70-some%, and where are the funds going? And can we put them in pedways or something to help make the community safer? Just, so, you know, that's extra, but how much do we, that's what I'd like to know.
Okay, so that's a request for information, and obviously we're going to budget discussions. That's something that would be able to find out as well. Okay, thank you, and I see Councillor Radburn.
I think it would have been useful if you would have asked that question at Protective Services so that staff could have had that information available to you for tonight. I do know that, yes, we're gleaning less revenue. It wasn't established as a revenue grabber, so to speak. Our concern was to make sure that was at least break even. It is my understanding that it is still break even. We're about halfway through a 5-year contract. So in a couple of years, we'll be looking at that contract again, and then we can make whatever decision we like.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. I see Councillor Rice.
I guess if more information is coming forward, we seem to have focused on photo radar, but they do much more than that. So if your information needs to cover all of the areas that they produce revenue for, I know downtown parking, for example, if my memory serves me correctly, the net profit on that is over 135 grand a year, and that's after their contract expenses are paid. So we can't just focus on one area of their responsibility. If the information's going to come forward, it'll have to be comprehensive.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Rice. I see Councillor Radburn in the queue.
That's all right. That's all right. I was going to say that it does go into general revenue. It's my understanding it goes into general revenue as well.
Yeah.
Councillor McLean, so, and it can be used for whatever. Pedways, fire halls, whatever.
So, okay. Any further questions or discussions or debate? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that vote carries. Was there anything else from Protective Services, Councillor Radburn?
Yes, Mayor Given, I just wanted to highlight a couple of the items at the committee meeting. One, we had a resident come to talk about their animal control bylaw with respect to particular discriminating with respect to a particular dog breed. We did learn from Mr. Roth that bylaw is being reviewed as we speak, and this issue will be considered in the context of that review. We received a victim services report for information. In terms of city facility parking, I had a fairly comprehensive report. The committee requested further information, and I would urge and encourage all of council to come to the meeting when we talk about this issue again, because there are some pretty significant implications in terms of on a go-forward basis. Pay part, do we require staff to pay or not? How do we lead? How do we model what we want from the community? So there's some philosophical, I guess a good philosophical discussion needs to be had with respect to this issue. But it was a good starting point and a good report. And finally, we looked at the addition of speed on green. We chose, for a number of reasons, not to proceed. And we'll review that again in the context, maybe in a couple of years, on the renewal of our red light camera decision. But really, we thought we could incorporate it with the technology that we have for red light cameras, and we can't now. We'd have to go to a standalone system, and really the committee felt that was not the way to go. So we'll leave it alone for now, and in the context of a new contract, if we continue the red light camera technology, we can look at it again then. But for now, we're not proceeding with that.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Radburn, any questions on the Protective Services Committee meeting? Seeing none, then would move on to the Community Development Committee meeting, and Councillor Gustafson.
All right, thank you, Mayor Given. I'll move the council receive the minutes of the Community Development Committee meeting held November 9th, 2010.
Thank you very much. We've all heard the motion for the minutes. We'll call for the vote. Thank you, and that motion carries. Please carry on.
I'll move that council rescind the motion made on January 6, 1998 by the Planning and Community Development Committee regarding the establishment of a paintball facility in the South Bear Creek in Muskosibi Park. If I may, for your information, this is a group of people that lost interest in forming a skateboard park in the South Bear Creek Park, and we've lost track of what they're doing, and it's basically a housekeeping.
Okay, thanks very much. I believe you mean paintball?
Not skateboard.
Did I say? Paintball, sorry.
Okay. Were there any questions for Councillor Gustafson or debate on the motion? I see Councillor Radburn in the queue.
Also, the Muskosipi Master Plan that we just approved doesn't contemplate paintball facilities in our park, so that was another reason why we want it rescinded.
Okay, thanks very much. Any further questions, discussion, or debate? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. And that motion carries. Was there anything else from the Community Development Committee meeting, Councillor Gustafson?
No, not at this point. We'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions for Councillor Gustafson? Seeing none, I believe that's all the items of business, and we're on through correspondence, of which we had none. I believe the delegation business had all been dealt with at the front end of the meeting. We have no notices of motion, and we're on to council member reports. And I did see that there was a report on community futures of Grand Prairie Region. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. We've had a get-together last week in Community Futures of Grand Prairie and the region. There's quite a few areas involved in this, and I'm just learning about it. I did not know what it was at first, and then at SMETA was brought up, and I think it used to be Saskatoon Mountain Economic Development Association, and it changed its name. It's actually a very good a thing that they do and about for small businesses and getting them established. So I'm looking forward to learning a lot more about this. And they nominated me to be secretary, so I am now officially first-time secretary. So I very greatly appreciate it and look forward to my role in it.
And congratulations, Councillor McLean. I see that there was a report on the Grand Prairie Airport Commission. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Airport Commission just highlights, we had a November 4th commission meeting. I guess 4 things I would just highlight. One, we did approve a response to the city with respect to proposed changes to Articles of Association. They will come to General Government Services, that letter. We did approve the 2011 revenue, expenditure, and capital budgets. Again, they will come to for review, not approval, but review to General Government, to the city, and I think through the General Government Services. We will be sending in a recommendation, as the commission will be sending a recommendation with respect to the 2 openings on the Airport Commission that will come up as of the end of this year, this calendar year. And we did talk about runway extension and Airport Entrance Road, Highway 43 intersection in terms of updates and some of that discussion we had this morning, or previously this evening. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Councillor Wong, you had Grand Prairie Regional Tourism Association.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Given. At the Grand Prairie Regional Tourism Association, the last meeting was an AGM in which they recapped their entire 2009 year, or 2010 year, I should say. But the key thing to point out at the AGM was the new executive. I would like to say congratulations to President Ken Loudon, Vice President Jason Halwa, the Treasurer Naomi Duclos, Secretary Terry Tatry, as well as the 6 other new directors that were elected on. That's everything. Thank you.
Thanks very much for the update. And on the Grand Spirit Foundation, Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Grand Spirit Management Committee meeting, October 29th. We are sending a letter to the minister. we were turned down with respect to lodge assistant grants for the 16 new units that we're adding to Wild Rose Manor, or Wild Rose Villas. So we're appealing, so to speak, that decision. Really, why would you treat units in a facility any differently? So we're taking another kick at the can there. We did do a draft budget development. It will go to the board here in a couple of weeks. Hythe Pioneer Home, we've established meetings to discuss the inclusion of that facility in Grand Spirit. Hythe has been part of the requisitioning, but they have chosen not to have their Hythe Pioneer Home as a part of Grand Spirit. They asked for separate requisitioning powers from each municipality, and the response from the municipalities in the area was that no, if you want to be a part of Grand Spirit, then you're part of the requisitioning power. But so it looks like they may be interested, so we'll hopefully December 17th have further discussions in that regard. And we received capital project updates. Wild Rose Villas will be actually a substantial completion meeting is this Thursday morning while we're at budget. Amos Court is going along, hopefully open the next spring. And the family housing addition, we're bringing family housing staff over to the main office of the Grand Spirit Foundation, will be open here later this month as well. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Redburn. I think you actually had the next one as well, the Multiplex Building Committee.
Thank you, Mayor Given. This is thank you to Kylie. We had our billing committee meeting here a couple of weeks ago, but she has a site meeting right the day after the billing committee meeting, and so she sends me the progress of the project following the site meeting. So in terms of construction costs, about 2/3 of the way. We spent about 2/3 of budget. In terms of progress, roofing, small areas by the Coca-Cola Center and Fieldhouse left to complete. Masonry, 80% complete, working on interior brick by elevator. Exterior brick is complete except for one small section by RCMP area. New child play area is frame, mechanical, and electrical rough-in has begun. Pool area, stair tower for water slide. Second pour for these stairs will take place tomorrow. Last section of base slabs under kiddie pool area will be poured this Wednesday. Overall 99% complete concrete work. Area remaining is for hot tubs and slab around Lazy River and kiddie pools. Field house area, hanging of light fixtures is 75% complete. And painter is working on west bleacher area by Gymnix and third floor ceiling of running track. So these kind of details are interesting from the perspective it reminds you what is in the multiplex. And just reminds, I think, myself of how exciting some of the components and the entire building will be. Thank you, Mayor Gibbon.
Great, thanks, Councillor Radburn. Councillor Monroe, you had an update on Peace Region Economic Development Alliance.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Yes, I attended a meeting on November 5th for PREDA, or Peace Region Economic Development Association. They are working on some very exciting things in conjunction with the Center for Research and Innovation through the college. They've got a number of projects, one of them being Unmanned Vehicle Systems Initiative, which is basically, I guess, robot vehicles, so to speak. They've also got a CO2 capture model that a person is working on using algae to capture CO2 emissions. It's quite exciting stuff. Some other highlights about that, though, as well, is that they're really starting to step up their lobbying efforts as far as the rail freight services review is concerned, and making sure that our concerns are being heard for our local users of the rail services. And I'm really looking forward to learning a lot more about PREDA as I continue to work on this committee. Maybe just mark your calendars. January 19th to 21st, 2011, PREDA will be hosting the Growing the North conference. More information to to follow. I think Brian Glavin, our Economic Development Officer, has information that'll probably be in your mailboxes. One last thing about it as well is that there was recognition to County Councillor Jack O'Toole, past County Councillor Jack O'Toole. As I understand it, he chaired this committee for a couple of years or a number of years, and they did recognize him at this meeting and gave him a nice farewell. So that's all I have to report.
Okay, thanks very much. Did I see a question in the queue? Councillor Rice?
Did they give you, like, where would an unmanned car be going?
As I understand it, it's not necessarily limited to cars. It's a lot of it would be aviation related, and it would be something that they could, for example, they would contract out to oil field industry to check on leases or to have unmanned vehicles to check cut lines.
Okay.
So, and it's actually Lloyd Shirk is the gentleman that is following this up, and if I'm not sure if you've ever met him, but he's a brilliant guy.
Okay, and second, just a comment and maybe confirmation, the Growing the North Conference, my understanding is that they have an absolutely dynamite lineup of presenters for that conference, including Mike Holmes.
I believe you may be right, yes. I will make sure I get you a brochure.
Thanks very much for that, Councillor Rice. And I saw one more update from Councillor Wong.
Thank you, Mayor Given. If I could provide two updates. I just remembered that we did have a multiplex regional resource committee meeting.
Sure.
We actually had a couple of them. At the first meeting, we discussed the proceeds from the Radium Poker Tournament. Radium had asked us to help provide labor and some marketing services for their event in exchange for providing the proceeds towards sponsorship of our multiplex facility. I don't remember the exact amount, but I know it was over $20,000 that they ended up moving our way. The second one was, the second sponsorship was Service Credit Union, who sponsored $100,000 towards the multiplex. And that was a great one. The mayor actually received the check on, let's see if I can remember the date here, November 10th at the Service Credit Union open house. And finally, we discussed a public fundraiser opportunity. It's a very exciting opportunity. Unfortunately, I can't release any information on it yet. Everyone on the committee thought it was just a really neat thing. There will be a media release on the subject, and it'll be affordable enough for everyone in the community to be able to take part in this fundraiser.
Cool, very exciting, very tantalizing.
Yes.
Thanks a lot. We're all gonna be
I just
wondering.
wanted to keep you on your seat there. Finally, I have a report from the Wapiti Corridor Planning Society. The update is that we've compiled data from over 186 interviews. Now, those 186 interviews didn't seem like a lot until we started to dig into that, and we found out that each interview could have consisted of one or two people that represented a larger group. So it could have represented a club, which could have several dozen members or several hundred members, or could have even included an industry like Weyerhaeuser in Ainsworth, who has hundreds of employees. So we've requested that staff go back and actually try to link those two with the statistics that we're gathering. So we could say 186 interviews represents 8,000 people, for example, which would add some strength to the report. We were also able to identify some definite trends in the data, but we didn't want to do too much analysis because the idea is we're going to compile that data and a consultant is going to come in and help us examine it. But it was very interesting in terms of the uses in the area, especially just immediately south of us. You could definitely see that that was a really high recreation area. The Society is going to begin that process of hiring the consultant to write the report and to help us do some analysis. In the meantime, we were handed out these plans from the Capital Region River Valley Park, which is the area right around Edmonton, which is includes 7 different municipalities, and the Eagle Point Blue Rapids Park System. So they're quite big documents because these are planning documents, and we're hoping that we can grab some good elements of both and use that in our report. So to date, the Society has spent approximately $250,000 of the $600,000 budget. Approximately $100,000 of that were expenses attributed to county staff who are doing the bulk of the work. We are still awaiting funding from the city, which is going to be discussed this Thursday. And that's my update. Thank you.
Thanks very much, and I believe that was the end of our updates, and we'll start with roundtable, and we'll start on my corner to my right with Councillor Munro.
Thank you, Mayor Given. It's been a busy couple of weeks here. Attended a number of events. I'll just maybe gloss over a couple of them here. October 28th, the Mortgage Group, TMG, had an appreciation evening. I think a number of us were there. It was quite a jam-packed office, but a nice event nonetheless. Toured the multiplex November 4th, and it was my first time touring the multiplex, and quite excited to see how beautiful of a, well, I guess it's not beautiful yet, but it's going to be big anyways. I'm sure it will be beautiful once it's completed. Grand Prairie Safe Communities had their AGM on November 9th. They had a guest speaker, and forgive me, but I've misplaced his name. Maybe Councillor Wong could... Okay. Regardless, he did an excellent job of doing a presentation. He contracts out to Workers' Compensation Board. He is a disabled person. He'd lost his legs in a work-related accident 20 years ago, and he does speaking engagements around the Prairie provinces for the last number of years, and it was quite enlightening. Attended the Community Foundation's National Philanthropy Day breakfast on November 10th, which featured their speaker, Member of Parliament Chris Workington. As well, I was at the Service Credit Union $100,000 event on November 10th, and as well attended the Remembrance Day ceremonies at the Cenotaph. I will add to that it was a great event. It was very well attended as well too. It was great to see so many people out. And I guess final thing is this one hasn't happened yet, but morning mixer for the Chamber of Commerce this Thursday at a well-known local pizza restaurant, 7:30 a.m.
Thank you very much, Councillor Munro. Councillor Rice?
I attended the Grand Prairie Tourism Association's luncheon that they held in conjunction with their AGM, and it's kind of an annual Christmas tradition at this point. I would like to add council's congratulations to Inspector Peter Pushka, Operations Officer for Grand Prairie and Beaver Lodge RCMP, on being awarded the John Howard June Lindgren Award, a provincial award for outstanding volunteer contribution. Just a little background, back in 1998, when he was very young, Corporal Pushka initiated Camp Little Buffalo here. He was the one who began that, which is a partnership project to protect at-risk youth 11 to 13. Inspector Pushka has always believed that research shows that every dollar spent on crime prevention is worth $8 years later in terms of a potential savings in police services, court, and prison costs. So congratulations to Inspector Pushka for that provincial award. Also, if I may, I'd like to add our congratulations to Carol Longmore, who is the aquatic event supervisor at the Leisure Centre. She was awarded her second Life Saving Society Commonwealth Service Medal, and the recipients of this award dedicate themselves to providing life-saving society programs in their community for a specific number of years, and they must volunteer themselves, promote the life-saving programs, and ensure the staff provide quality life-saving society programs and services. So again, congratulations to that staff member for, and perhaps Ms. Cata Sharp will pass that on. It's the kind of of dedication. I think that we're very proud to see reflected in our staff. I will be attending the AUMA convention. Excellent lineup of sessions and resolutions. AUMA has an outstanding track record of success with the resolutions that are passed. On Wednesday morning from 9 to 12, I will be manning the Peer Mentor booth at the trade show, so I invite you all to stop by and chat with me and fill you in on what the Peer Mentor program is, and, well, maybe I might give you a pen or something. And at our time, yeah. I will be doing the door prize draws at the trade show on Wednesday afternoon. I mean, usually the grand prize is a trip for two any place WestJet flies. I don't know what it is for sure this year, but they're generally quite good prizes. And that evening I will be emceeing the tailgate gala. So I don't want to threaten anyone, but I would sort of suggest it might pay off to be nice to me the next few days. I will have both a megaphone and a microphone in a room with 1,500 people, so you might want to go out of your way to be kind to me the next few days.
You don't really need a megaphone.
Either do you.
We've seen what happens to those people who aren't nice to Councillor Radbourne. This is for the new members of council. If you're not nice to Councillor Rice in advance of one of these events, you will be called out on stage. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen, and let's just say that the council member that it happened to didn't run for council another time. So, this is FYI. Councillor Wong?
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. On Thursday, October 28th, I attended an event to raise funds for earthquake disaster relief in Chile. It was hosted by the Swan City Rotary Club and held at the Shark Club downtown. On Friday, October 29th, members of council met with the Wild Rose Alliance leader, Danielle Smith. On Monday, November 1st, I witnessed the start of the demolition of the York Hotel. And there was champagne being cracked, and there was also some somber moments from people who were on the street, and just other businesses that were, or business members that were hovering around the area. It was a somewhat melancholy event. You know, it's one of those bittersweet things where you know that you need to do this for the community to rejuvenate it, yet it has been a part of Grand Prairie history. So, you know, we're looking forward to bigger and better things to come in any case. On Thursday, November 4th, I was at the Pomeroy Inn for breakfast at the launch of the Big Toy Box. So I just wanted to remind everyone that you can donate your toys at the Toy Box locations, and the toys will go to community groups to serve less fortunate kids. Tuesday, November 9th, I attended the AGM for GP Safe Communities, and I did look up the name Justin, and it was Mel Camilli. He was an excellent presenter. He lives a very full life now, and he does. He spends half his time going around and doing these kind of talks and really reinforcing the fact that safety in the workplace should be something that's always on the front of our minds. On Wednesday, November 10th, again, I was at the Service Credit Union open house and watched the mayor receive a check for $100,000 for sponsorship of the multiplex. On Thursday, November 11th, I was at the Canada Games Arena for the Legion's wreath-laying ceremony, and I just wanted to say kudos to the boys' choir who added a nice touch to the ceremony. And finally, on Friday, November 10th, I was at City Hall for a tender opening. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Wong. Councillor McLean?
I did too attend as well with Daniel Smith in town, and some facts that I learned. I knew some of them was we produce about 35% of wealth in Alberta, have under 10% of the population, and receive 7% back. That was good information to know. November 4th and 15th, there was a Regional Resource Committee, which Councillor Dan Wong is the head of the committee. And there's some major important things coming, and I think the community involvement in our multiplex is going to be huge. And if they ever can get a tour, a few more tours, they'd be really amazed of this facility. We were also on November 5th, had a city facility tour for 3 councillors. Councillor O'Toole and O'Croken came, and it was an all-day tour. So we got to see the multiplex quite well, and that was an enjoyable moment with everybody and a few of the directors. There also, November 8th, there was a committee Environment Committee meeting, where curbside is going to be more talked about down the road, and I think for good reasons. November 9th, Protection Service Committee, my first one as well. I look forward to more. November 9th, the Salvation Army Christmas Kettle campaign takeoff, which was really important to me as something big in our community. I did not know they have a whole room for tools for children. So if you're going to give some food, maybe buy some children toys as well. November 10th was budget review. This is going to get more and more interesting. November 11th, of course, Remembrance Day in the Parade Army and Navy. And I just want to say hats off to the firemen. Look forward to you having your new facilities, and very honored to, in Northern Alberta, we only have 2 full-time service Fort McMurray and you guys, and look forward to it, just looking at how to pay for it and go down the road. That's everything. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll move over here to Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On October 29th, I went to the Center of Research and Innovation. They had their awards dinner, and I'm proud to say that one of my mentors, Dave Fenton, I worked for him for 25 years, got an award, and a good friend of mine, Paul Dadgis, both innovators, and also Jared King, all from Grand Prairie, did very well. So there's lots of technology and lots of smart, innovative type people in the Grand Prairie area. On October 23rd, I went to a victims assistance fundraiser, and I bought a bike that's too big or too small for me, and my wife's got a new watch. So a little bit of cash short here now. On the 28th, I attended the Mortgage Center open house as well, and on the 29th, I also went to an open house for Playfair. They're a local company that does t-shirts and advertising and sporting goods. I was on the 29th as well. I went to Danielle Smith. She was in here from the Alliance Party with some of my other colleagues here. And also on the 29th, I attended, I'm quite proud to say, Walter Mueller. He's 90 years old, and he got towed up in a sailplane, and I was able to watch that. I've known him for 45 years, and it was quite exhilarating to watch somebody that's been flying for well over 70 years. So he said, all you old people, get off the couch, start doing things. So we got something to go forward there. I opened some bids also on the 29th, or actually I helped Helen Rice, Councillor Helen Rice, watch opening some bids. I attended a Ducks Unlimited supper on the 4th, and also toured the multiplex. Safe Communities, annual GM. They had some people that were honored, and ATCO Electric. First time they've ever won a safety award. The president of the company come to Grand Prairie to accept it. They were totally excited about that. Opened some bids on the 10th here, and Remembrance Day I participated in the cenotaph outside. Once again, very proud of the city of Grand Prairie and the people that provided the skill and the manpower to put on that parade. I went to the River of Death meeting. I'm on the board now, and we've got some very exciting news that'll happen here in the next year, but we did break ground, and development is being started as we speak. And I did have a little bit of a tear in my eye when the York Hotel went down, but I also fed my belly. I went to the farmer's market, and I watched it while I was eating some fancy food. I don't know what it was, but it was good. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Radbourne.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Note to self, invite Kevin O'Toole to all fundraisers that I am involved in. Wild Rose Villas Building Committee, TMG Open House, Tender Opening, Tourism Luncheon, Philanthropy Breakfast, and Legion Remembrance Day Ceremony, where Deputy Mayor Crokin, Abe, did a stellar job of laying the wreath on the city's behalf. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radbourne. Councillor Gustafson.
Thank you, Mayor Bill Given. I was away for a little bit for a week here for the last, but I was able to squeeze in CR Center for Research and Innovations luncheon, the meeting with Danielle Smith and other members of council. I had a very informative meeting with the principal and some teachers from Peace Wapiti School, concerned about the children playing on the highway, on the bypass around there. So they had some information I'll be bringing forward to General Government Services in the next meeting. And on November 1st, while I was watching the York Hotel come down, I started growing my mustache for prostate cancer. So did you know that 60% of men who have cancer, it's prostate cancer? So raise some money for the cure for cancer and look forward to budget meetings coming up in the near future. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Gustafson. And finally, Councillor Crokin.
Best of the last. I won't go on. I attended most of the things that were mentioned. I'd like to really be grateful to the administration for assisting us on the tour to our facilities. I thought we were having some sort of a launch of some new program when I found out it was just lunch at the Library and Art Gallery. So that was really good. Thanks again, Bill and Jennifer, Jeanette, and Frank. To see the facilities that we have invested in is really great. The multiplex, of course, is very exciting, and the RCMP building and downstairs is where you don't want to ever go unless you're on a tour. That's a definite. And the transportation center, thanks to Frankie, give us a great tour there. That's a great facility. And of course, I was honored to lay a wreath on Remembrance Day at the Canada Games Arena on behalf of Mayor Given and Council. And just a little note on the CJX, the toy box. I had beat both of you there. I had a challenge. I'd give a donation. I challenged other councillors. You showed up, and I'm not sure how the challenge went. But you have to get up a little earlier to beat Councillor Crokin to one of those things. They had said there was breakfast, so I was there after 6 sometimes. So that's everything. Your worship, Mayor Given.
Thanks very much, Councillor Crokin. On October 28th, I was here at City Hall and had the pleasure of having the first poppy pinned by the Royal Canadian Legion for the start of their poppy campaign. On October 29th, I was here for the Wild Rose, meeting with the Wild Rose Alliance, and I was also present at the kickoff to the York Hotel demolition. Also on November 1st, I attended to bring greetings to the Prevention of Family Violence Month kickoff at the community village. And on Wednesday, November 3rd, I attended at Ivy Macklin for a pizza party. The class there had won the pizza party at a City of Grand Prairie youth event, and so it was my pleasure to pop in and meet the students and share some pizza. I didn't really get much pizza because with a bunch of teenagers, of course, it goes fairly quickly. On the 4th, I had an Aquaterra board nominating committee meeting here at City Hall. The nominating committee is working to bring in prospective candidates for the board as we move away from having elected officials on the board. And so we laid out that process, and we'll be seeing information coming forward on that relatively soon. On the 5th, I had a meeting with representatives from the Catholic School Board in regards to their capital priorities. And also on the 5th, I attended at the Tourism AGM and Sparkling Lunch. On Tuesday the 9th, I brought greetings to the AMA Seniors Transportation Roundtable at the Holiday Inn. Also on the 9th, I had the pleasure of making the first donation to the Salvation Army Kettles campaign. Hopefully when people see folks at the mall or at a store ringing the bell for the Salvation Army, they'll reach into their pockets to find not just the change. I know as a person who's rung those bells, it always gives you a little bit of an extra charge when you see somebody come out with a bill with some paper money to put in, and I know the Salvation Army appreciates it. So hopefully the community will consider that when they go by. Also that evening, I made it over to the Safe Communities AGM and have to agree with Councillors Monroe and Wong that Mel, the speaker, was absolutely excellent. I was at the breakfast for National Philanthropy Day, and should note that even though that was on Wednesday the 10th, National Philanthropy Day is actually today, the 15th of November, and MP Workington is actually bringing forward a a resolution to the House of Commons to actually pass into law that every November 15th will be recognized as National Philanthropy Day. I was also at the Service Credit Union Customer Appreciation that day. And then, of course, on Remembrance Day, I was at the outdoor ceremony at the Cenotaph put on by the Army, Navy, Air Force veterans, and we certainly appreciate their work and everybody who attended in the mild November weather. And finally, on Friday the 12th, I met with representatives from the Public School Board to listen to them about their capital priorities. And with that, if there's nothing else for council, we'll call this meeting adjourned. Thanks very much.